as BD professionals, you don't want to be in a position where you're just a pitch monkey preparing endless RFPs and presentations. You want to be driving the firm's strategy, using data, understanding our customers, and I think the tech is there.
So thank you everyone for joining the BD Roundtable session today, and I'm very pleased that we are joined by Hussain Hadi, who is who heads the Middle East publishing arm of LexisNexis. And everyone obviously is hopefully very familiar with LexisNexis. And can I say, Hussain, that one of your passions is also legal tech, and you've given lots of lectures and you've provided lots of information on the legal tech side as well. So I'm very, very happy to have you join us. Can you share a bit more about yourself and about your passion for legal tech and how that sort of like evolved over the years?
Right, so I'm Hussain Hadi, half Iraqi, half Scottish, grew up in the Middle East, studied in the UK and came back recently. I've been at Lexis for 10 years and I've been in legal publishing more or less coming up to 20 years. And I think I've slowly seen that transition within the legal publishing community, within LexisNexis, from being a traditional publisher, publishing books, having research database, to going further. We now have 8,000 technologists worldwide. We're more concerned with the application of artificial intelligence, using machine learning, using analytics to predict case outcomes. I mean, when I studied law, you'd have to go in the book and look at the footnote, look up another case. Now you can have tools which will predict the outcome of your case. Based on an analysis of similar cases, you enter the criteria, there's a 70% chance the judge will rule this way. So I've seen that transition in the publishing industry, and it's been a fascinating thing to watch. And I've seen that transition in the legal industry as well. And for me, the legal industry, surprisingly, has been one of the slowest adopters of the technology revolution. I mean, in some ways, people say the practice of law hasn't really changed 100 years. You look at, for example, the accountancy profession, they've been much more advanced. So one of the interesting questions is, why has the legal profession been a lot slower or a lot more cautious in embracing the technology revolution, embracing digital transformation and using these tools? And it's been a fascinating insight for me. And I think for me, my passion comes from, I'm a lecturer with the Dubai government legal affairs department. We teach on legal tech. And when we first started talking about educating the market in the Middle East about the availability of technology, my first thought was to go to all the adoption reports and all the reports produced by the Law Society, American Bar Association, etc. But they actually said to me, Hussain, we don't want to scare them off by coming in straight with discussions of blockchain, e-discovery tools, etc. You almost have to start at a granular level. I mean, we get some people that still don't have a website or are using Gmail. How do we encourage people just to use the technology they have already? So my particular passion with legal tech is getting the essentials right and changing the mindset. How, is it better to be more efficient? Do we really believe that? And if so, what can we use to get there? So I'm very passionate about using the tools we have already and changing the mindset.
Yeah, it's very good that you highlight that. I think that's totally right. I agree with that, because there is so much available out there right now. Like you can get tools and automation for literally everything and anything, right? And it's hard to, you could implement so many different things, but if they're not being used, then what's the purpose of it? So, sort of like getting back to basics in a way is really helpful. So thanks for that introduction, Hussain. That was great. Now, during this BD Roundtable, we always ask a couple of questions to our speaker, so to you, around the topic that we're discussing today, which is legal tech. And then after those questions have been answered, we open the floor for everyone on the call to contribute and have a roundtable discussion. So that's going to be exciting. So yeah, the first question to you, Hussain, on this topic, I think is probably one of the most important ones, is to, what do we consider to be legal tech? Like, what is legal tech?
Well, I think it's fair to say that traditionally, if you're taking a narrow definition, it's tools that help law firms be more efficient and run their process in a more efficient manner. So that could cover accounting, billing, document automation, e-discovery, legal research, practice management, how you actually run your firm with the back office, case management, how you engage with clients on litigation case. So it's essentially leveraging these tools to be more efficient in your day-to-day practice. But fundamentally, I mean, you know, look, technology's been around for a long time. Lawyers have been around for a long time. Why is it only in the last 5 to 10 years suddenly legal tech has become such a hot topic with so many conferences and so many reports? It's about a change in mindset. The idea that a lot of the work that lawyers do is commoditized, is repetitive, is admin driven, and that can be done more efficiently leveraging the tools we have, leveraging machine learning. The idea is that it could free lawyers to focus on the high-level strategic advice that they do best. And whereas that low-level work, proofreading, summarizing, redacting, researching, these things can be done using technology. So for me, I think the challenge with defining legal tech is, where do you draw the line? Because I think there was a really fantastic article by Anders Spile, and in the article, he's a legal tech provider himself. He said legal tech is overrated. Legal tech is oversold, wrapped in the wrong packaging. And secondly, lawyers overestimate their own domain when they demand industry-specific tech solutions. So the idea here is a lot of the challenges that lawyers face are not unique to the legal profession. Collaborating with colleagues, you know, the collaboration process doesn't necessarily need legal tech per se.
No.
Slack or Teams for that, but in theory, it is facilitating our work. BD tools, whether you're using Google Analytics, MailChimp, Canva, Google Alerts, that's not legal tech per se, but it enables it. So probably you would draw the line. Legal tech is where it's helping you do your work in a more efficient way, perhaps in a very dramatic way. But the boundaries of what is tech and what is legal tech is quite fluid. There's a really fantastic glossary from Alex Hamilton, which cuts through the hype. And his definition of legal tech is re-sprayed SharePoint for those that didn't get the legal tech memo. As in, a lot of things are simply workflow tools that have been packaged as legal tech. But you know, that's something you can do with Teams, for example. So it's about a change of mindset and being more efficient in how we work and how we deliver value to our clients.
Yeah, that's a very good analysis on that, actually. And I think when we speak about myths, and one of the myths that I want to bring up to you is legal tech or artificial intelligence tools will replace lawyers eventually. Are we going to bust it, or what do you think?
I think that the first thing is, when you say AI and you think of it in the broad, sexy way, you start thinking of driverless Google car, IBM's Watson.
Robots, yeah.
Question, robot judges. Now, one caveat, there are robot judges in China at the moment, but that's just in China in a mainstream perspective. But I don't think AI will replace lawyers. What AI will do is that it will take over that low-level commoditized work that junior lawyers do. So the sort of work that paralegals, associates, you know, interns, that kind of work, a lot of that work can be done by machine learning, which is a subset of artificial intelligence. So you might see some of those entry-level roles, some of those might disappear or be replaced. It doesn't mean we'll see an overall reduction in the number of lawyers, because even though we might see less of those entry-level roles because we can do that work using machine learning and other tools, but we'll see the need for different type of skill sets. So if you look on, for example, a lot of law firm websites, and you look at the recruitment page, up to 1/3 of the roles being recruited are legal tech related. Document support specialist, project manager, data analyst, consultant. It's basically marrying the human intelligence with data experts and process experts to provide better value. That's fundamentally what we're trying to do. So AI is not going to replace lawyers, but the lawyers that don't leverage and use AI will be replaced by those that do.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and I think we've seen that already, sort of like that thinking. At least I'm not saying the sort of like the support by legal tech, but the thinking what the bigger law firms like the likes of Freshfields do in sort of like lower cost areas. They have a base of junior lawyers who take on that commoditized work. Now I think they're going even a step further, as you say, where they will explore how legal tech can take that bit of work over. So maybe in that way, I'm not saying lawyers are being taken over by that technology, because I completely agree with you. I think that's right. But we are looking to sort of like enhance the efficiency in that sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at most of the major international players, they have set up outsourcing units or legal tech incubation units. For example, would be Alan Overy's Fuse,
Yeah.
some of the others, Mishcon Durea, Reed Smith, and most of them talk with the same language. They're saying, we want to bring in operational experts, process experts, and deliver outcome solutions to our clients in a more efficient way. So if you talk about disruption in the legal sector, we used to talk about alternative legal service providers like Axiom saying, you know what, for that low-level commoditized repetitive work, the law firms usually get an army of junior lawyers to do that work. We'll do that for you more efficiently, and we'll charge you a fair price, either by the volume of work or a fixed fee or a license fee rather than the number of hours worked on it. So those guys have disrupted the legal profession. But you've also got the big four, particularly PwC. The largest law firm in the world by number of lawyers is Dentons. The largest law firm by geography is PwC, and PwC is really leveraging technology to give outcomes. And international law firms are matching them there as well, setting up these outsourcing units, these incubation units. And it doesn't have to be particularly sophisticated. You mentioned Freshfields. Freshfields has won some innovative awards for seconding their associates to in-house clients, coming back, being partnered with project managers, IT specialists in the firm, and to provide simple solutions. It could be a compliance calendar that highlights when you have to file or submit VAT. It could be as simple as a gratuity end-of-service gratuity calculator. It doesn't have to be particularly complicated, but giving tangible outcomes to clients. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's really really interesting, and this links, I think, also nicely to the next question. Like, what do you think, based on your experience, is the type of legal tech, and you work with in-house legal counsel, I believe, mainly, and obviously also with international law firms. But what is their perception of legal tech, and how do they use it, and what is valued most by them? What do you think is the most sort of like valued type of legal tech?
I guess there's two elements to the question. The first is legal tech that the in-house legal teams themselves are using, and then expectations of what legal tech their law firm, if there are expectations. I guess I'll answer the external part. So for one part, there was a survey by the Singapore Law Society. They asked in-house lawyers in Singapore, what are the top technology developments you would like to see your law firm offer you? The number one was document automation. They wanted to see more efficiency in digitizing documents, using templates, using better, consistent workflows. And number two was client portals. The idea is that someone could log in and they could either monitor the progress of their case using a case management system. So that could be an international case management system like Clio. It could be a local Middle East management system like App for Legal or case engines, code engines. Or you could simply use it to keep your clients informed of interesting developments. You could have a playbook, frequently asked questions, templates they can download for simple tasks like changing the director, changing incorporation. So I feel a client portal is a simple, inexpensive tech people should use. And then document automation is the name of the game. In parallel, there's a report we did in the UK looking at what in-house lawyers are using. There were two statistics. One is 57% of GCs believe that technology has already made them efficient, and then 60% believe that technology will make them more efficient in the next 3 years. On the surface, that sounds good, but it's actually a bit depressing. That means 40% do not believe that technology has made them more efficient, or that technology will make them more efficient. Why is that? And the reasons are, sometimes the tech has been oversold, overhyped. It didn't get good usage. 1 in 5 GCs do not use the tech. People don't know what tech to go for. They feel that the costs are too high. So a lot of times the tech community has let the in-house community down. We also asked in the survey, what tech to use? Now, when it comes to legal research tools, most in-house lawyers will have a legal research tool or frequently asked questions or playbooks, things like that. When it comes to other tools like document management, matter management, a little bit less. Contract automation, not so much. But the main challenge for in-house lawyers is understanding what are the pain points, because there's no point going out to buy technology if you don't understand
what you need it for. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually the most difficult task, to actually understand what you do. It's quite a detailed exercise. So for example, I'll give you a case study. The in-house lawyer at Nestle 3 years ago, he came in, he wanted to understand what his legal department does. He spent 2 months and he had 10 criteria. So for example, contract drafting, training, face-to-face meetings, and he measured all of my team, how much time do they spend on each of these tasks? So under each of those 10 tasks, there might be 2 subtopics. So you actually measure and you have some, you have some statistics. What are we spending our time on? I've done this exercise many times in in-house lawyers. I'm in a lecture with the Association of Corporate Counsel. I can tell you without doubt, once you look at the metrics, they do not match the job description the lawyer was hired for. So the in-house lawyer is doing a lot of unsung hero tasks. Management do not have full visibility of the challenges they face. So management team will look at the in-house guys going, well, I pay you guys an expensive salary. You're on 70,000 dirhams plus per month. You spend a fortune on lawyers, $500 per hour extra. You're a cost center. My contract guys are telling me you're delaying the contract. Why should I give you more money to buy legal tech? What do you need tech for? And in some ways, we have to educate the business about the importance of the in-house lawyer. So if the in-house lawyer is wasting a lot of time answering the same questions that are coming from the employment team, could that be done better by training? Could it be a chatbot, a playbook? To emphasize that. So I think we need to enable in-house lawyers to have those conversations using metrics, using KPIs, understanding where those inefficiencies are, and then we can bring in technology. And I feel that law firms have a role to play in helping their clients along that journey. One of the interesting findings of the survey was 45% of in-house lawyers would like their law firms to advise them what tech to use. 75% of in-house lawyers would like to know what tech their law firms use. So to give you the extreme example of that, the in-house lawyer at Kia Motors in the US, in 2013, he initiated a legal tech proficiency test. Any law firm wanting to win Kia Motors business had to send their associate, senior associate to complete the test. If they fail, they don't get the business. I think the 9 law firms that sent associates, I think 8 out of 9 failed. You might have,
I can imagine.
What such hell is this? What were they asking them for? And it was basically, lawyers can do the basics. You can use track changes, basic formatting, but he wanted more in terms of converting to PDF, proofreading, stuff like that. Now, the reality is we don't teach these essential skills, which comes back to my passion. In some ways, you want to demonstrate to in-house lawyers that lawyers can do the basics really well, and they're only going to charge you for high-level strategic advice. No in-house lawyer wants to feel that he's being billed for inefficiency, to get the hourly rate up. So that's something that in-house lawyers are looking from external counsel. Can you demonstrate that you can do that low-level, commoditized, repetitive work efficiently? Because I don't think any in-house lawyer begrudges paying a law firm $1,000, $2,000 per hour for strategic high-value advice. That's worth its weight in gold. But for simple things like a contract to change, a letter to change the directors, simple contract, that's repetitive commoditized work. So I think for in-house lawyers, they're starting to look towards automation, but they're still struggling with conveying their value, demonstrating that value, and securing budget or even willingness to have conversation about legal tech. So I think the first step is understanding pain points, understanding drivers for efficiency, and then bring in legal tech.
Yeah, that's right. And I feel oftentimes it's done the other way around, right? We get a piece of legal tech because it looks good. So, oh yeah, we could use it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you think you have a need for it, but actually, as you say, if you break down the tasks and where you see that automation can actually come into play, because it increases your efficiency, that's when you need to implement it, and not because something looks smashing and you think, oh, I need to be using it. And I think this is where one of the problems really come from from and the sort of like misunderstanding around legal tech is that the sort of like the peer pressure that we feel amongst law firms specifically. If one law firm comes up with something, or they've you know, they're using a piece of legal tech, whether that be document automation or something else, I think the pressure is then being felt like, oh, other law firms need to use it as well because you can't stay behind. But there is no like real or proper assessment of whether that piece of legal tech is actually going to help you increase your efficiencies, or whatever goal you've set for yourself, right, is going to help you to achieve your KPIs. It's a real problem.
I couldn't agree more. And every law firm is different. So you need, you know, whether you're an in-house or a law firm, you need to understand what's going on in your firm. So different practice areas require different technology.
Yeah.
So if you're an arbitration specialist, the amount of tech, and I won't classify it as legal tech, it's just tech. The amount of tech to help an arbitrator today is incredible. If you go on the International Bar Association's website, just Google IBA arbitration tech. There's a fantastic free to access curated site, and it has all the different types of technology available to arbitrators to have multiple databases, extracting text and data from WhatsApp, PDFs, messages to make sense of it. Like, as an arbitrator, there's a wealth of information we could use. 3D modeling, so you could take someone on a virtual visit of a construction site. If these safeguards have been in place, the fire would have been contained, so liability is mitigated. So there's a lot of tech in the arbitration sector. In other sectors, not so much. So you really need to understand, what is it you do? How often do you look at contracts? If you, for example, have a standard template for a contract that you like, you open your SharePoint, you download from Lexis PSL or Lexis Middle East, you get the template and you use it twice a month. What's wrong with that? Absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you find yourself looking at that contract, let's say 10 times a month or more, even if you save 5 or 10 minutes answering certain questions, and that produces a first draft, that could save you a lot of time. So for example, if I'm creating an employment contract, I just have to answer 6 questions: limited or unlimited, probation 3 months or 6 months. And I answer those and immediately I get a draft, rather than having to make changes on a shared template. We all use the same methodology. So I think, you know, with law firms, you're often worried, fear of missing out. But I can tell you, there are statistics that back that you shouldn't be afraid. So there's 2 messages. One is, you should get on board the train or prepare for the train, but you haven't missed it yet. If you look at the legal tech adoption report from the Law Society of England and Wales, people are dipping their toes in the water. As we've said earlier, with the international law firms, they're setting up incubation units, they're starting to automate certain contracts, but it's not like people have transformed the way they work. People are still nervous, they're waiting and seeing. And probably, to be honest, there's a reason for waiting and seeing. There's over 1,000 legal tech providers out there. Some of them have only been formed in the last 5 years. Which one is proven? Which one will be accepted as the standard? So a lot of people are cautiously thinking, well, I've heard a lot of buzz. Does that mean it's going to change my work? Let's look at the Middle East, for example. In my class, I've taught about 1,000 lawyers, and I've asked everyone, how many of you have a client intranet portal? 10%. Only 10% of the legal consultants firms have an intranet portal. How many of you have automated your contracts? Only 25%. If you asked out of advocates, that figure will probably drop down to 5%, if not less. And even the international law firms, when I tell them, how is your incubator in London, how's that going? He's like, I've heard great things, but it's not really changing my work in Dubai in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
We've still got some way to go, and not all tech is fit for purpose. Using a project pricing tool in London might not necessarily work in the Middle East. And of course, in the Middle East, we need Arabic tech tools, and there aren't that many available. We have the likes of Case Engines, App for Legal, and others, but we still have some way to go. So law firms shouldn't be seduced by all the hype. And I know that you find yourself thinking, my God, I just saw someone at this legal tech forum talking about this dramatic software. There are some important case studies out there. Like, for example, JP Morgan has developed their own contract analysis tool, which can do the work of that would take lawyers 300,000 hours in a matter of seconds. Startling numbers. But for the most part, don't get swept by the hype. Look for those quick wins, those quick fixes for those small pain points, and build from there.
That's a good piece of advice. And also looking at our profession, BD and marketing professionals within law firms or professional services firms, wherever you work, how can we use that now, knowing that this technology is out there and that we need to look at where the efficiencies needs improving? This is where you could potentially be looking at implementing legal technology. Is there anything specific that you would advise us to do in our roles as to how we could support with that? Because we ideally are very close to the business, close to the clients in a way as well. What is your advice to us on that?
I mean, there's obviously multiple different angles you can take this on. I'll start from the engagement with clients first. The first thing to say is you can use simple tech to engage with clients in a meaningful way. Let me give you an example. Latham & Watkins have a UAE free zone navigator tool. You can pick two, it's a free tool. You pick two free zones, you compare, it'll tell you what activities are allowed, what's the difference in cost. Al-Tamimi has a fantastic app that you can use with really good thought leadership pieces. And obviously the Al-Tamimi magazine is renowned for giving you that advice on the latest developments. So whether it's something like the Al-Tamimi app, Latham & Watkins free zone navigator tool, Rouse & Co., the IP specialists in UAE have an IP health check. You answer a series of questions and it'll identify areas where you might want to protect your IP assets, whether it's trademarks, or identify areas that are weakness. So you can use these type of tools to engage with people in a more interesting way, but also you could use sophisticated CRM tools to segment the market. And whenever, and I think, I don't know, Barbara, if you still agree, but a lot of the times law firms have to be dragged kicking and screaming when it comes to BD. You want to bring in sophisticated management techniques, and they're like very reluctant.
Very true.
I don't want to think about BD. Ugh, I'm a lawyer. I want to focus on the law and give value. I don't want to think about segmentation and analytics and things like that. But the reality is lawyers have to help their BD team with this. We have to understand what our clients need, what our clients want. So for example, one disconnect between in-house lawyers and law firms is often lawyers say, I don't understand my client's business inside out, but I will give them bespoke legal advice which enables them to make a business decision. The in-house lawyer says, I need to make a yes or no answer. I don't want perfect advice. I want good advice quickly. The lawyer comes back with, I can't give you a yes or no answer. Like I don't know the business well enough. I'll enable you to do that. The in-house lawyer is like, I don't have the luxury of all the nuances and the gray areas. So one of the things in-house lawyers always ask for is concise, practical advice. Law firms often resist. No, I want to consider every possibility, and they're right as if they're in university, which is not helpful. Time and time again, this is the feedback we get from in-house lawyers. So from marketers, how do you distill information, whether it's an article, a client briefing, or even a pitch you're going for, in a practical, concise way? So one of the things you can do is use legal design, putting ourselves in the shoes of the user. How do we teach them in meaningful way? Let me give an example of legal design. I was at a conference recently, and they were looking at a due diligence exercise, one hotel merging with another one, and the lawyers had drawn a wheel with all the departments of one hotel, and then another bigger wheel with all the other departments, and you could see connectivity, which departments were similar, using color coding. In a very nice, simple way, you could visualize the interconnectivity, where the savings are, where the inefficiencies are. So when you think like that, simple changes using legal design, using interesting dynamics, using 3D modeling. So we go beyond simply boring Word documents, client briefings, PowerPoints. We can go more than that. So there's so many different aspects of this. But going back to your earlier question, what is legal tech and what isn't? I would imagine that a lot of the tools that BD use, would you necessarily consist of that as legal tech? Like if we're using HubSpot, or if we're using Google Analytics, MailChimp, Canva, or Google Alerts, these aren't legal tech per se, but they're important tools to help us segment the market, give targeted messaging, measure the engagement. Are people interested in reading about this topic? No, we shouldn't write about that topic. I know we're passionate about space law, but it's not taken up yet. People still want the bread and butter employment or real estate updates.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so true. And I like what you said about, legal design as well. And I know this is maybe not really to do with automation, but it's just simplifying processes as well, right? The other day I saw a really interesting one which explained sort of like the journey if you go into an agreement with someone. So from signing an NDA all the way to, you know, signing your shareholding agreement, etc. And they actually designed it in a way as if you were dating with someone. And I thought the analogy was really nice, as in at what stage in the dating, in the whole sort of like process of dating, when do you start to sort of like engage more seriously? Like when you say you're going exclusive, this is where you sign the NDA, etc., etc. And then finally you form this agreement. This is where you marry, and you sign the paperwork, and then it's basically done. And the way it was sort of like visualized was really interesting. So I mean, we could host a whole roundtable session on that alone.
I think that's a perfect example, and it is like that. I'm actually speaking Monday, the independent law firm network, and I was on a session a while ago, and one of the questions asked was, we want to understand our clients better, and that dating process, when can we jump into some kind of marriage? How many dates do we need? And one of the questions that came up is, obviously we can second our associates to the client to understand their business, embed them, and learn about the industry. Can we charge the client for that? Was one of the questions. I mean, you know, can I charge a day rate for that? Should I do that for free? And it's a bit of a chicken and egg, you know, how comfortable the client is letting you into their world and understanding it. You know, because that's always a challenge, because ultimately you want to be in a position where you really understand what drives your clients. So for example, you know, if law firms are pitching for business, who do you go for? I've seen examples where a medium-sized law firm that brought in a partner, senior associate, junior associate, and you could tell that they all know each other, they all work together. So it's not going to be the partner comes in, farms it out to the junior associate. You're not going to have one point of contact. It's all a bit of a mess. So you know, how do you embrace that? I think the dating example is very apt. You know, how do you go about that in a way to learn about the person, to really listen to what they're asking, you know, to find interest.
Yeah, and I think even, you know, explaining the law more clearly in relation to a day-to-day, you know, thing, something that we all feel is relevant in our lives and we can resonate to as well. So I think that sort of like transition is happening because we need to simplify it. And I think that's also the role for us to play, right? In BDM marketing, to sort of like simplify and almost in a way translate what lawyers try to bring across to their clients or to their targets or whoever it is they want to speak to, and make that sort of like translation for them. Sorry, so final question before we open up the floor for questions and the roundtable discussion would be, what do you think are major legal tech developments in the future? So anything that you've seen, I mean, you've spoken about your the robot lawyers, robots, not lawyers, I think, right? Or was it lawyers?
Robot judges.
Robot judges in China, and how can we adapt to that technology?
Well, look, I think firstly, if anyone hasn't had a chance to read it, the Law Society in Wales last week.
It's really good, yeah. They
published
it last
a report
week.
on the future of the legal profession. What can we expect to see by 2000? So obviously one key theme is digital transformation across the board. I mean, and that's been accelerated in the wake of COVID, whether we like it or not. There's going to be more flexible working, more automation, using more tools, legal tech or otherwise. So that involves a lot of work. You know, we have to upgrade our cybersecurity capabilities. We need to be very careful with data protection. We need to look at the implications of using AI and other technologies, whether it's drones or otherwise. So lawyers have a real role to play in helping guide businesses in that transition to be ready for digital transformation. You know, in a world where everything is in the cloud, where there's collaboration across multiple countries, where you're at risk of hacking. So if you look at the ACC, they have an annual survey, what's keeping in-house lawyers awake at night? You know, the usual things come up, you know, cybersecurity, data protection, the pace of regulation, compliance. But I think law firms need to be in a position to be the thought leaders helping that conversation to drive that digital transformation. And that has to start with your own firm. And one of the key things there is mining data analytics. So even if your law firm doesn't have the tools today to make sense of the data you have already, you should prepare that data in a way that makes sense. So when you're actually storing or finding that data, think about you know, at some point, I want a tool to come in and find patterns in that. Because if we actually, you know, in the same analogy with the in-house lawyers, if you actually look at your work and you look at what your clients are telling you, lessons learned, you'll be amazed how much real insight you'll unearth. So as BD professionals, we need to be in a position to have those conversations to make sure we're not repeating the same work. We're not leveraging a lesson learned from another case. We're not connecting people that might work together. We're not embracing cross-selling opportunities. And all that comes with leveraging and analyzing data. And what are the tools to do that? And I think BD should be at the forefront of pushing that and leveraging that data. And the extreme example I use is case analytics. Let's say you go into court and you don't know, you're not using a tool that helps you determine your strategy for the judge, how many similar cases your opponent has lost. You're at a disadvantage. If you don't have that data at hand, you're in that position. So I think as BD professionals, you don't want to be in a position where you're just a pitch monkey preparing endless RFPs and presentations. You want to be driving the firm's strategy, using data, understanding our customers, and I think the tech is there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's really something I think that we should be looking for as well when we recruit new people for our teams, for example, to have that sort of like understanding of data analysis. It becomes more and more important. And especially in this more digital world, right, where we really, we can use the data to our advantage, and we have access to more and more and more data because we go digital. So I think that's a fantastic development in a way. Thank you so much, Hussain, for busting some of these legal tech myths. It's been really useful, at least to me. You've really opened my eyes in many different ways, so thank you. Let's open the floor for a discussion. So you may all now turn on your cameras and also unmute yourself.